Hello again, my name is Andrew Morley, and as you may know, I am President and CEO of World Vision International. I want to welcome you to Promising Conversation number 10 and talk to you about money. So people have talked about whether or not World Vision's revenue is going to continue to stagnate or decline. My answer is simple, not on our watch. I committed to our board, the WVI board, last week that we're going to work together to do everything we need to revitalise child sponsorship and also revitalise our revenue. Flat revenue doesn't do justice for the great work we do across the world. We need to see growth because we want to see more children, families and communities' lives changed by what we do. Now, many people don't feel comfortable talking about money, not in their families or at home. But let me tell you, for us, it's vitally important. We have to talk about money because in World Vision, it's not just about funding, it's also about ministry and impact in the lives of children. Let me explain what I mean using 3 Ps. Promises, people and prayers. The first P is money as promises. Every single dollar given, every single dollar received and spent by World Vision is a promise. A promise to a supporter, an institutional donor, a family, a child, a community, for people whose lives we want to impact. And we promise that we will be faithful to the purpose for which those resources are given, managing them in a manner that brings maximum benefit to vulnerable children. Through our stewardship and demonstrating evidence of impact, we become worthy of the trust and confidence of those that give us their money. Nowhere is this seen more clearly than in child sponsorship, where the supporter makes a promise to a child and we help them to keep it. Like the Chew family you see on your flyer. For us, this means making sure that child sponsorship activities are part of our programming, not separate, capturing evidence of impact digitally using Horizon, having one clear global promise. And when we talk about child sponsorship, we talk about putting the world of the child in their hands through mobile communications. Delivering just over 40% of our total revenue and a direct impact on the lives of over 3.5 million registered children and 2.7 million sponsors, our first priority is to revitalise and grow child sponsorship, making and keeping more promises. I'd also like to say a word about Vision Fund, our microfinance ministry. Vision Fund hasn't yet been celebrated as part of our promise. I'm deeply committed to Vision Fund. It was where my wife Vanessa and I first donated to World Vision when we were in Singapore. We saw that Vision Fund also invests in the promise of a reliable source of income and a livelihood. This is often the difference between subsistence living and making a small profit to improve food quality, health, or to send children to school. With a loan portfolio of over $390 million, it's a significant part of our funding mix. With just over 1 million active borrowers impacting 3.5 million children, its ministry is huge. If you saw every dollar given and invested as keeping a promise to a supporter and a child, what difference would it make to you? In Vision Fund, in sponsorship and across our whole ministry. The second P that describes money in World Vision is people. People like Zahara's 3 daughters, and you can see them in your flyer. They live in Afghanistan, one of our prioritised fragile contexts where some of the most vulnerable children in the world live. Zahara didn't know what to do. Her children were underweight and malnourished. But things changed. They changed when World Vision's PD Hearth programme was introduced to the community. Zahara and many other women like her were taught how to prepare nutritious meals for their children, with the result that her children are getting better and have rediscovered their appetite for food. PD Hearth is our community-based approach to address malnutrition, one of our core global project models. The grants that fund this kind of programming are critical for fragile contexts like Afghanistan. As part of our strategy, we will accelerate growth in grants, to fund fragile contexts and deepen impact in area programmes alongside sponsorship funding. However, grant funding is often for specific purposes and doesn't cover the total cost of delivering our ministry. This makes private cash funding from individual supporters alongside child sponsorship essential for maintaining core operations. It's essential for matching grants and essential for deepening our commitment where often the most vulnerable children are concentrated. This is our second highest priority after revitalising child sponsorship. Developing new sources of private recurring revenue to help us extend our reach to vulnerable children, especially those in the toughest places. When I think of money, I think of people like Zahara and her children. I passionately believe in our model. I believe that we have a huge impact on the world. I believe that World Vision brings life in all its fullness more effectively than many of our peers. If you saw every dollar as representing a person experiencing fullness of life, what difference would it make to you? The third P that describes money in World Vision is prayer. Sustainable funding is not just about money. It's also about the thousands of supporters who faithfully partner with vulnerable children and us in prayer. They want to see a transformation and be transformed themselves. The Matthew 25 Challenge is a great example of just this. The Matthew 25 Challenge is an exciting new programme which disciples churches through a week-long experience centred on Jesus' love for the least of these, brothers and sisters of mine. Following a launch event, congregants who opt in will receive text messages. These text messages will have a daily challenge, powerful stories and photos of children in need, specific prayer points and family discussion questions for the day, and after the church has completed the challenge, they celebrate together and a call is made to continue living out Matthew 25. The way they do that is by sponsoring a child or making a pledge to fund fragile contexts. More churches are saying yes to transformational experiences that result in more money, promises, people and prayers. If you saw fundraising as a ministry that raised the prayers of many to support our work, what difference would it make to you? I would urge you, as you have this promising conversation, think about how keeping our promise requires us to think about our funding mix. We need to raise the right funds with the right donors for the right programmes in the right places. So as more money is given, more promises are kept to more people supported by their prayers. Thank you for spending the time and listening to this message. Now let's all go and talk to our teams and build teams that are going to change the world. Thank you.